What is going on, everybody? Shwazy here, and in today's video we're going to be discussing over 25 cool, interesting, and fun features of the 2023 Cadillac Escalade V. Now, before we get into today's video, I want to extend a huge thank you to Spencer at Makes and Models for giving me the opportunity to review this amazing car for you all today. Spencer, tell me about your dealership.
Yeah, thank you. So we've been in business now for 12 years. We've been in Salt Lake City now for 4. We transport cars, service cars, sell cars, consignment, trade-ins, you name it, we do everything. We're here to help. That's what we do best. We love when we have guys like Shwazy come by to check out our cars and do the reviews. It's great for our business, it's great for Shwazy, and I really hope you enjoy the video.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Spencer.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Back to the video. Okay, so what exactly is the Escalade V? Well, we all know what the Cadillac Escalade is, which is the vehicle that pretty much saved Cadillac from bankruptcy back in the day. And so this is a very important vehicle for the brand. Now in 2021, they came out with the 5th gen, but here for 2023, for the very first time ever, they're offering the Escalade V. And V in Escalade jargon is the high performance version of their regular vehicle. So you guys may be familiar with the CTS-V. They now have the CT-V Blackwing, and it's the pinnacle of high performance for the brand. So think AMG for Mercedes or BMW M series. This is kind of the example of high performance, and for the very first time ever, they're offering it on the Escalade. Now, you may notice that this is actually a little bit longer than your standard Escalade, and that's because this is the Cadillac Escalade ESV V edition. So it's a very long name. In fact, ESV actually stands for Escalade Stretch Vehicle. So the full name of this car is the Cadillac Escalade Stretch Vehicle V. Very long name, very complicated, but I'll probably just refer to it as the Escalade V. Now the ESV is about 13.2 inches longer in its wheelbase than the standard Escalade, and it's about 15.2 inches longer in vehicle length, with a total length of the vehicle being 227 inches long. So it's not a small vehicle by any means. It's a full-size SUV, and most of that additional length is in the third row legroom and in the cargo volume, which we'll talk about later on in this video. Now, believe it or not, Cadillac says this is the most powerful full-size 3-row SUV in the world. Now, you guys may be saying, well, there is the Dodge Durango Hellcat, but a couple things I want to point out about that. First off, there is no word about whether that vehicle is going to continue into 2024. 2023 is likely the last model year. Second of all, the Durango is actually a smaller vehicle. It's technically considered a mid-size SUV because you don't have as much space in the third row. So in terms of full-size 3-row SUVs, this is the most powerful one you can buy on the planet. Now, you may be wondering, what is the difference between this and a regular Escalade in terms of appearance? So let's talk about that real quick. First off, you have the V-Series front grille. So it looks totally different than the other Escalades. So this looks very similar to some of the other Cadillac CT-5Vs, CT-4Vs that are out there. This is on brand with a lot of the V-Series vehicles that they have in their lineup. And then down here, you also have a different lower grille and a different front splitter. So as you can see, it actually extends out quite a bit, and it looks really menacing down here at the bottom. Looks more like a sports car than a full-size SUV. Now, moving further up, you of course have your daytime running lights. This is kind of a trademark of Cadillac Escalades, and your LED headlights over here. And overall, the front end looks similar to the non-V series, but it does look a little bit different. Now, moving across the side, you'll notice the V series, of course, has these V badges along the side and on the rear as well. The side of the vehicle remains mostly unchanged compared to the standard Escalade, but then moving out back, you also have a custom rear fascia as well. So the rear diffuser looks a little bit different. Looks, again, very aggressive. You got these flaps over here on the rear diffuser, and then of course there's no mistaking it, you've got quad exhaust tips on the Escalade V, and of course it has a specific sport tuned exhaust that sounds incredible, which we'll show off later on in the video. Moving further up, you've got another V series badge back there, looks really good. And then moving upwards, the rest of the vehicle looks very similar to all other Cadillac Escalades in this 5th generation model. But now let's talk about the first incredible feature about this Escalade V. Okay, so what's incredible here is actually what's under the hood. So What you've got here is what Chevy and GM call the LT4 engine. You guys may be familiar with this engine because it's used in other Chevy and GM products, and it's a magnificent engine. So it's actually a 6.2 liter supercharged V8, which is similar to that found in the CT5 Blackwing, the Camaro ZL1, and then the C7 Z06. So the prior gen Chevy Corvette Z06 had this same engine. However, this has a little bit of a modification compared to the Blackwing LT4 engine. This one actually has a larger supercharger. So the Blackwing had about a 1.7 liter supercharger. This one's a 2.7 liter supercharger to suck in a little bit more air into that glorious engine. And in terms of power output, you're looking at 682 horsepower and 653 pound-feet of torque out of a full-size 3-row SUV. It's really crazy. What a time to be alive. Now, all of that power is sent through a 10-speed automatic transmission, and you have active all-wheel drive as standard, which is probably necessary to be able to put all of that power down to the ground. And 0 to 60 on this thing is just around 4.4 seconds, which is truly incredible for a vehicle that weighs 6,400 pounds. Now, unfortunately, your fuel economy is what's going to suffer here with a supercharged V8. It's 11 in the city and 16 on the highway, which, you know, if you really think about it, that's not that crazy for an extended wheelbase, large supercharged V8 engine. I mean, cars in the 2000s that just had like a 5-liter V8 would get that type of fuel economy. Now, another cool feature to point out about this engine is this is a hand-built supercharged engine. So you actually have the name of the individual. Looks like it's Steve Stinson that built this particular engine. So it kind of makes it a little bit more special and more bespoke when you're driving behind the wheel of the ESV V Series. Now, in case you're wondering about quarter mile time, this will compete amongst some of the best drag cars out there. You're talking 12.7 quarter mile. And let's take a listen to this amazing active performance exhaust. Okay, now's a good time to pause the video and hit that subscribe button if you guys are enjoying the content, because that helps me out a lot and helps me bring more amazing cars like this to the channel. Now let's get back to the video. All right, so we've talked about the V Series engine. Now let's talk about all the other performance bits you get with the Cadillac Escalade V. First off, let's talk about the wheels. So you do have 275/50 R22. So these are 22-inch wheels on all 4 sides of this Escalade. They're absolutely massive, but they look really good, especially with that dark gray color. Matches really well. And then you guys might be able to see, you've actually got 6 piston Brembos over here to stop this absolutely massive vehicle in just a short amount of time. And I gotta say, that red matches really well with the black exterior paint. In case you're wondering what the name of this color is, it's called Black Raven, and I think it matches very well. I mean, in this black color, you look like a mobster when you're sitting behind the wheel. This vehicle is definitely not for those that want to fly under the radar, because this thing is super in your face, and I absolutely love it. Now, the Escalade V also comes with a adaptive air suspension. So you guys may have seen when I turn this vehicle on and put it into the V mode, which we'll show off in just a second, this thing will automatically lower and giving you a more of a performance feel behind the wheel, and that is thanks to the air suspension. But this vehicle also has Magnetic Ride 4.0, which essentially this system reads the road every 5 milliseconds and adjusts the level of dampening for the best ride. Now, I will say, I just drove this car about 5 minutes to this parking location, and this thing is incredibly soft. We'll talk more about that when we get behind the wheel and take it on the road. Okay, now before we jump inside and talk about the beautiful interior of this Escalade V, I first want to address you cars and coffee enthusiasts. If you guys are addicted to coffee like I am, I recommend you check out Octane Coffee Company. It is the car-themed coffee company, and personally, I'd recommend the Octane 105 Race Gas with this Escalade V because of that supercharged engine. The Race Gas has a little bit more caffeine than your average cup of coffee. It's got some sweetness in it, and boy, does it smell good. You can check out all their other roasts at OctaneCoffeeCompany.com, and you can get 10% off your first order using promo code Octane10. I guarantee you car fanatics are gonna love it. Okay, now let's jump inside and talk about all of the cool features on the inside. First off, I wanna show off this door handle, which actually has illumination over here on the door handle, and this thing doesn't actually move. There's just a button located in here, so you pull on that button and then it opens up. You also have an automatic running board, and You might not be able to see in this lighting, but there is an LED strip located right underneath here. So you kind of have this underglow lighting when you're walking up to the vehicle at night. Looks really good. And take a look at that interior. This is probably one of the best interiors of a full-size SUV. Now, my one complaint is there's only 2 dark interior color options. So you can get a black like this one, or you can get a dark brown, which looks almost identical. It's still very dark. I wish they had some brighter, more sportier colors on the inside, but boy, is it gorgeous. I mean, just take a look at these seats. They have so much texture to them. They're like pleated seats, and they look absolutely beautiful. You also got some white stitching, and this is semi-aniline leather, in case you're wondering. Now, let's start with the door panel. This is what they call zebra wood, and it's kind of like this lacquer, dark gray and black wood that looks really good, and you've got some aluminum styling underneath. This is, of course, all soft touch material. Again, a little bit more of that white stitching. Overall, the door panel looks really nice. I just wish they had a little bit more color to it. You do at least have some of this white piping over here along the side, and then up at the top, you get an aluminum door handle with your heated and ventilated seats. You got 2 different types of heated seats, and they're all 3-stage. You got your lock and unlock button. Over here, you got your mirror controls, window controls, your memory seats, and then a little grab handle over here. Now, moving down below that, you of course have a pretty large compartment over here with a cup holder. This is of course hard touch plastic, but that's to be expected. Now, you also have this AKG sound system over here, and this is one of the big selling points of the Escalade, because this probably has more speakers than the amount of units of this Escalade V they're going to sell. We're talking a 36 speaker audio system. I don't think I could even find them all. You can see some on the roof over here in the front and the second row. There's also some in the third row. You've even got it in the headrests. Now, it's going to be very hard for me to convey what it sounds like over the camera, but let me turn on a song and have you decide what you think of this sound system. Okay, now moving inwards, I do want to mention that you of course have power seats, lumbar support, but you've also got massaging seats as standard in the Escalade V. And then moving down here, you do have the Escalade badge over here that lights up. Now let's climb in and talk about the next set of really cool features on this vehicle. Of course, you have the trailer brake controller, you got your parking brake, and then the switch to regulate the brightness of the gauge cluster. You've also got a button to regulate 5 different driving modes and a button to raise and lower your air suspension. And then you have another V badge in here as well. And then more nice use of materials on the inside, along with that zebra wood. Looks really nice. I personally like that it has this kind of gloss material to it because it separates from all the black that's on the dashboard. I mean, this is all soft touch material over here. And then one cool feature I want to show you on the outside. So in case this badge doesn't tell you enough that this is a Cadillac, there's actually another badge located behind that center screen. That's actually pretty cool, but a little overkill on the Cadillac badges, but it is a Cadillac. That's kind of the definition of it. Okay, now moving further up, I've been dying to tell you about this next feature, which is this 38-inch display. So Cadillac says this is 38 inches, but it's divided into 3 different screens. Starting off with the left-hand side, this is your 7.2-inch control panel. So it's got kind of your quick access stuff, and then you can cycle through the different menus over here. It's actually pretty intuitive and pretty quick to act. You have, of course, night vision on this because this is a luxurious SUV, and then you can adjust your heads-up display and the brightness, but very quick to react. I mean, as you can see, I'm pushing these buttons and it immediately opens up. Now, moving over here, take a look at this massive screen. This is a 14.2-inch instrument gauge cluster display, and currently I'm in the camera mode, and wow, this is just beautiful. I mean, this looks like I'm looking out of the windshield. Looks better even. And depending on what buttons you hit on this left-hand side, so if you pull the map, it will of course pull up a full screen map for you to view. You can also just hit your regular gauge cluster that kind of shows you some of your standard information, your tachometer. You have the night vision. So based on this control panel, you can regulate this 14.2-inch screen, but I prefer it in this camera mode because it just looks really good. Plus, this is a pretty long vehicle, got a long hood, so it's nice to see as you're pulling up to something. Now, moving to the next screen, this is a 16.9-inch touchscreen display. And, you know, this uses a lot of the same software you have in GM and Chevy, but it's definitely been a little bit more refined. Very quick to use. I mean, I could make probably a 30-minute video just talking about this screen. Of course, have your quick access buttons over here on the home menu, which will pull up pretty much the exact same map that you're able to view here. Then you can hit the home button and go to your main screen where you can select your audio, your phone. There's also an automatic parking feature, which isn't new to a lot of vehicles, but probably necessary for a vehicle of this size, so you can have it find a parking spot for you and they can automatically pull the car in. Then you can swipe to see all the various different menus, so like your trailering function, your Alexa devices. You can program different users in here. You can also regulate your rear climate control because this does have 3-zone climate. And then you can of course pull up your camera buttons if you choose to. And this has probably one of the widest range of camera angles that you'll find in the industry. I mean, you've got a top-down view, you've got a 3D view where you can cycle through various different cameras. Now, I will say some of the German competitors have a little bit of a better quality 3D camera system, but in all honesty, this is a feature that's really not that beneficial. I gotta say, this bird's eye view camera is much better than something like this because this tends to distort some of the vehicles that are close to you, versus this kind of shows you a little bit better where the parking lines are and makes it a little bit easier to park. But it's still cool that they offer that. You of course have a trailering camera, and I mean, you can go through probably 20 different angles just on this 360 camera button. And then you have a video recorder button where if you plug in an SD card, it can record what's going on with the car. So if you take this to a racetrack, you know, you can record your lap times. And then ambient lighting here, I kind of wish it was dark outside so I could show you all the different colors on the inside, but I have sat in a different Escalade with the ambient lighting on and it looks really good. You've got a beautiful ambient lighting underneath and you've got lots of different colors here. I don't know if it's as many as you'd find in like a Mercedes with 64 different colors, but this is plenty of color options to go through. And then of course you can adjust the brightness as well, but I'm a sucker for ambient lighting, so I'm really glad that they've included that over here on the Escalade. You also of course have wireless Apple CarPlay and wireless Android Auto. Now on the left hand side of the screen, you also have these quick access buttons for your audio, your map, your phone. Then you have the vehicle information, and this is where you can go through your oil life, your tire pressure, your fuel economy. So some of the stuff that you'd find in this control panel, but a little bit more detailed over here on the center screen. But I gotta say, just the overall design, I love how it's a curved 38-inch OLED screen. And Cadillac says the definition here is actually twice as good as a 4K TV. And I believe it because the clarity of this screen is absolutely beautiful. And I kind of like this two-tiered setup where you have an instrument gauge cluster screen and then you have your infotainment screen. I mean, the design here is really superb and really surprised me from Cadillac to create something this beautiful on the inside. Now, talking about this steering wheel, this is actually a heated steering wheel and you've got paddle shifters here, of course, which makes sense because, well, this is a 680 plus horsepower vehicle. On the left hand side is how you control your heated steering wheel and your cruise control settings over here. You've also got your voice activation. And the next cool feature here is this conversation enhancement button. So by clicking this button, it makes it a little bit easier for you to talk with your third row passengers that are pretty much half a mile down there. And that way they can hear you and you can hear them. You also got this fake button over here, but it has a little bit more of that Cadillac emblem on it. Of course, leather wrapped over here in the center with your Cadillac emblem, and then a little bit more of that zebra wood with a V badge down here. There's dozens of V badges on the inside, but I don't mind it. Moving over here towards the center, of course, you got push button start, a large air vent over here, and a second one over there on the passenger side. And then you've got more screens over here. So there's probably over 60 plus inches of screen real estate on the interior. These are just your climate control settings, but for those people that absolutely hate touchscreen controls for your climate control, you're gonna love this Escalade because everything is these aluminum switches over here, which feel really good in the hands. And I love the way it meshes with the air vents, the aluminum over here, and the zebra black texture. And then you've got nice leather padding over here. I mean, there's no cheap materials on the inside, but it's kind of what you would expect with a vehicle of this price point. Now, this is probably the best button of all. It's called the V button. And by pushing this, it pretty much allows you to do launch control on this vehicle. It also opens up the baffles in your exhaust, makes it sound incredibly good. Now, when you do select the V mode button, this vehicle will actually lower about 0.8 inches. So it kind of gives it a more grounded stance to make it handle a little bit better when you have your foot to the floor. Now, when you click this mode button, I want to show you the different modes you have. You've got your Tour Sport, Snow Ice, Tow Haul, and then My Mode, which you can of course customize. And as I'm changing these modes, I can actively feel the suspension raising and lowering the vehicle. So it works pretty quick overall. You also have your auto hold feature for your brakes, and then their lane centering there as well. Now, speaking of safety features here, I briefly talked about the adaptive cruise control, which you of course have. You've got blind spot monitoring, which is a must on a vehicle of this size. You do have lane keep assist, but there is optional super cruise on the Escalade. And if you guys don't know what that is, it's this little line over here on the steering wheel. And what that will do is on pre-mapped highways, you can take your hands off the steering wheel and this vehicle will accelerate, brake, pass people on the freeway on hundreds of miles of freeway roads without you ever touching the steering wheel. So that is an option on this vehicle. And if you guys do a lot of cross-country trips, I would recommend getting that feature. Now, moving further back, you've got your gear selector over here, very similar to some other Cadillac models that I've reviewed. You also have a physical volume button. I mean, Cadillac knows what its owners want, and they don't want touchscreen controls for that. You also got quick access buttons here for your navigation, your information screen, your audio, and your phone. So a lot of redundant controls over here if you guys don't want to do the touchscreen. And then you've got a little mouse pad over here that's similar to, some of the stuff you'd find in some German vehicles from about 10 years ago. So you again have a little bit redundancy so that you can use this or the touchscreen to manipulate all of the different settings. So that's a nice feature there. It does feel a little bit on the flimsier side considering the price point of this vehicle, but then again, this screen definitely makes up for it. Moving further back, you got your back button and your home button and your hazards over here. And then take a look, you've got more of that zebra wood over here. Looks really nice. And then opening this up, you've of course got two cup holders and a little tray over here with two USB ports as well. But if that looks kind of messy, you can just close this up and it looks gorgeous. You've also got a wireless charging pad, and it's got almost like a little airbag in here to hold your phone in place. Now, my phone is the Galaxy S22 Ultra. It's one of the largest phones on the market, and this fits just fine. But that's kind of what you would expect with a vehicle that's this large. You've also got a little bit more of that leather padding over here. Feels really good. More of that white stitching. Escalade written over here on the back in case you forgot. And then opening this up, more USB ports. So you've got two more USB ports, a large compartment over here. You've also got a cigarette style outlet over there, and then a removable compartment. And this is massive. I mean, this is what you'd find on like some full-size pickup trucks. Moving further up, this does come with that digital rear view mirror. This is something that Cadillac pioneered back in the day, and then a lot more vehicles are having it nowadays. You've also got a suede headliner on this vehicle, so that feels really nice, very premium to feel that. And then lots of controls over here. It's almost like you're in an airplane. So you've got a switch over here to regulate the height of your lift gate. You've also got a couple buttons over here to raise and lower the third row seat. So you push this button, and that third row seat will come down. You push it the other way, and that third row seat comes up. So that's really nice that you can do that from the first row. You've also, of course, got your lighting controls here, beautiful LED lights. You also got your home link system. You can turn off the lighting on the inside, and then lots of functionality with your panoramic sunroof. Yes, this does have a panel roof. I've had it closed because it's been hot, but pushing this button, you will open up your panoramic sunroof. And this thing actually opens as well, which is a nice added on feature. A lot of times they're just a fixed glass roof. Now, the last thing to point out in the front row, aside from additional speaker grills over here, like I said, there's 36. You do have a head-up display as standard as well. And it's pretty simple overall. You just got your speedometer and your local speed limit, but it's still nice to have in a luxury vehicle. Okay, now jumping into the second row, in case you forgot, you're driving a Cadillac. Opening the door up, really nice use of materials, which is to be expected in the second row. Soft touch material up at the top, white stitching, a little bit more of that zebra wood, more aluminum door panels, lock and unlock button, which is kind of uncommon for the second row. More of those speaker grills, you'll find those throughout the interior. Your window switches, little compartment over here, soft touch padding, leather, and then down here, of course, hard touch plastic with a little space for a cup holder. Now, let's talk about these seats. You, of course, get this captain's chair setup, and this has seating for 7 individuals, because there's actually 3 in the back, which could probably fit comfortably back there. Again, beautiful pleated leather over here, the semi-aniline leather with a little bit more of that Cadillac Escalade logo. Now, I want to talk about how to access into the third row. Of course, you can go through the center, which is, pretty easy to do, but there's another way to do it. A couple ways, actually. First off, you can pull on this switch, and the seat actually lowers a little bit, and then, of course, the seat back goes as well. And then if you pull on this little handle, then that seat opens up, and this is actually a massive amount of space. I've reviewed a lot of 3-row crossovers, and this entrance is one of the largest of all of the vehicles I reviewed, because typically they kind of just move the seat forward versus this opens up the entire area. The downside to that is if you have a car seat here, you're not going to be able to access this third row. Now, there is another way to actually lower this second row seat, and that has to do with a little button located right behind the seat belt over here in the second row. If you push this button, you'll notice the entire seat falls, and then if you push it a second time, then it will unlock it. So if you don't want to use your hands to do that, you can do that as well. The one downside to this is there is no electronic assistance to reopen it. So you can't push this button again or the opposite way in order to open up that seat. So that is a downside because a lot of the competitions out there have electronically assisted second row seats, and you don't really have that in the Escalade. Jumping inside, first of all, you've got 41.7 inches of legroom in the second row. Plenty of space back here to stretch out and be comfortable. Now, I want to talk about these dual 12.6 inch screens over here. One for the passenger, one for the driver. You've got lots of functionality here. So not only can you plug in devices with your HDMI cables, Hulu, YouTube Kids, and I believe you can actually regulate what your children watch in the second row using that infotainment screen up front. But it pulls up just your typical internet service for your YouTube homepage. So you can cycle through different videos here. And then to get to your homepage, you simply swipe up from the bottom and that will reveal the home button. So that's pretty cool to have, especially for long road trips. Now moving over here, like I said, there's 3-zone climate control. You do have heated seats over here in the second row, but no ventilated seats, which is a little surprising because even the Kia Telluride offers that in the second row. But you do have various different climate control settings, different fan speeds, temperatures. It is a single zone over here in the back. You do have a button over here to open up your cup holders. And then down here, you've got a couple USB ports. There's your HDMI cables. And then you have a household power outlet, which is really nice. I'm glad a lot of American manufacturers are including that in their vehicles. But like I said, plenty of legroom, plenty of space, and a beautiful view out the top. Again, a little bit more of that speaker grill over here. And then you've got an air vent up at the top and a little hook for your dry cleaning. All right, now climbing into the third row, the one thing you'll notice is this has a very wide opening to make it easy to enter and exit that third row. I'm gonna push this button, open it up, very quick and seamless. And then climbing inside, this is a very nice place to be. So let me sit behind the second row, and as you can see, there's still plenty of space back here. Cadillac says there's 36.6 inches of space behind the second row. It's about 1.7 inches longer in the ESV version as compared to the standard Cadillac Escalade. And a really nice place overall. Again, a little bit more of that suede headliner over here on the side. You've also got a little soft touch padding, although it is on the very thin side. There's not too much padding over here, but it is nice that it's not hard touch plastic. You do have a little storage compartment over here, a cup holder, and then a USB port. Unfortunately, there's no third row heated seats here, which is something that some of the other competition is offering. But honestly, I could sit back here for a very long period of time. You got plenty of lighting over here in the rear window. And then you've also got an air vent located right above you, which is kind of blowing in your face, which is nice to have. Now, in terms of headroom, plenty of space over here. That's kind of what you get with a boxy SUV. Then you've got even like a little bit of a divot over here to give you a little bit of extra space in the third row. Overall, I could easily sit back here for a long road trip and be perfectly fine, especially with that captain's chair setup. You have a little bit of extra space in that middle row that you don't necessarily get in some other SUVs. Okay, now let's show off the set of cool features in the trunk area. First off, you push the Cadillac emblem to open up the liftgate, which is a pretty cool feature, but you do have a hands-free liftgate system as well. So there's a little Cadillac emblem on the ground where if you swipe your leg, then it will automatically open up. It's hard to see in the lighting, but that's a cool, nice touch. Again, lots of Cadillac emblems on the inside and the outside. And take a look at that trunk area. Absolutely massive. This is a huge benefit of having the ESV because the ESV gives you over 20 cubic feet of space inside of the cargo area, which is very beneficial if you're taking this for a road trip. You could easily fit a full-size family amount of luggage in the back. Now, starting off underneath this trunk area, you've got a little compartment over here. I wish it was a little bit larger, but it is nice to have some covered storage to put like a laptop or something. Of course, more of that AKG audio system on the left and the right-hand side with your subwoofers. And then these are a set of cool features. So first off, you have another household power outlet, which is nice. And then you can lower the second row seats and the third row seats using this button. So first off, let me push this button and you'll see it lowers the second row. And you push the other side, lowers the second row. Now, if you push this button, it will automatically lower the third row. Push it again, it will lower the third row as well and the headrest as well. And then in this position, you have 142.8 cubic feet of space behind the first row. I think you can fit like 2 smart cars just in this back area. Now with the second row up, you've got about 94.1 cubic feet of space. And then behind this third row, with this third row seat up, you've got a whopping 41.5 cubic feet of space. I mean, that's similar to the amount of space behind any regular second row crossover, let alone one with a third row. And then you can push this button and it will automatically raise the third row seats as well. Now, you have to hold the button down for it to work. Unfortunately, you can't do that to raise the second row. So you kind of have to do that from the inside, which is again, a little bit of a complaint that I have with this vehicle. Now, since this is a full-size SUV, you may be wondering about towing. Towing capacity on the Escalade is 7,000 pounds. Okay, now for the moment I've been dying for, and that is to get behind the wheel and drive this over 680 horsepower full-size SUV. Now, first off, I want to show you the key. This looks very similar to all your other Chevy and GM keys. You got your lock, unlock, remote start, your power liftgate, your panic button. On the back, I do like that it has a little bit of red. That adds a nice touch to it, makes it feel a little bit more bespoke. But I'm gonna stop talking, let's jump inside and take this thing for a drive. Okay, so setting off in the Cadillac Escalade ESV V-Series. First off, I love the way this thing sounds. When you turn it on, this thing sounds like a muscle car. Now, I have yet to actually gun it in this vehicle. I mean, I drove a couple blocks to get to this parking spot, but in all honesty, I was feathering the pedal because I wanted to save my first reaction to the camera so that you guys could see my initial thoughts and feelings accelerating in this vehicle. Let's put it into V mode. Whoa! Wow. That was just to like 40 miles an hour. Wow. Wow, the sound alone is worth its weight in gold. That is incredible. It really is just crazy that this thing, feels the way it does when this is a large, essentially limo-sized SUV. To be able to accelerate like that and just make that sound is crazy. I mean, I just barely touched the pedal, so we're gonna get on an open road and see what it feels like when the speed limit is a little bit higher than it is here. Okay, so as we head to a freeway on-ramp, which is really the only place where you could really unleash the power of this vehicle, I briefly want to talk about the suspension and handling, which I've immediately noticed just driving this car for just a couple blocks. This Magna Ride suspension makes a huge difference. I mean, this is a body-on-frame vehicle, essentially a truck chassis. Although you do have independent four-wheel suspension, this thing soaks up bumps incredibly well. This is one of the softest three-row SUVs I've ever driven. And I gotta say, GM does a fantastic job with it. I've noticed this on their pickup trucks, on their SUVs. It's a very calm and composed vehicle. And we're about to drive over some train tracks. I wanna see if you can even feel it through the camera and see if you can tell the difference. Okay, now that's not fair because the road actually curved a little bit, but the train tracks themselves, you could barely feel them. Also, in terms of audio experience, it's incredibly quiet on the inside. I mean, aside from that V-Series exhaust, you can't really tell that you're in a moving vehicle. It's very quiet. And then by pushing that button on the steering wheel, you can talk to the third row passengers, and I can kind of tell there's a little bit of an echo, and if somebody was back there, they could talk with me and it would amplify it. So it makes it very easy to communicate with passengers in the back. But honestly, even with this off, you could probably whisper and people in the third row could still hear you. Okay folks, so we're about to enter onto the freeway. I've put it into V mode here, and let's see how this thing accelerates. Wow, I mean, this thing gets up to speed really quick. Now, we're going around this corner here, and you can definitely feel the vehicle float. A little bit scary, actually, at times, because it does feel like it's about to, get into the other lane. But it takes some getting used to, of course. There's no hiding physics here. This is a 6,400 pound vehicle, super tall. But, I'm going to downshift here. Yeah, wow, this thing, it's not the quickest thing on the planet, but this is as quick as you're ever gonna get a three-row SUV. I mean, you're not gonna find anything quicker. And then, I don't know if you hear those burbles. I just downshifted and obviously off the gas, and this thing is just burbling that exhaust. I haven't heard that in an SUV of this size before. That's crazy. Let's put it back into just the auto mode. Let's let it decide. Wow. I mean, all while getting a massage in the driver's seat. This is the, have your cake and eat it too. It's phenomenal, and that's, oh, it's like a machine gun. Oh, wow. Wow, Cadillac, that exhaust system, wow, it's magnificent. This is crazy. I mean, you want to talk about passing power? This thing has it. I mean, wow, this is dangerously quick. That's crazy. That's crazy. You can get a lot of trouble in this Escalade. I want this thing. It is a joy to drive. There's no way this can't put a smile on your face. I mean, you have no soul if that's the case, because boy, is this thing. Oh, I mean, it sounds like you're driving a Corvette, but you got a 3-row SUV. It's crazy. Now, to finish off the driving portion, I want to talk about my overall thoughts and just how impressed I am with this vehicle. Now, you know, I've driven Cadillacs in the past, and they all felt like they were near luxury, but not quite luxury level. Not quite up to par with the competitors like Mercedes and BMW. But honestly, just driving this car for the last half hour, this thing feels like a luxury vehicle. There's no denying it. It goes head to head against those German competitors, and in some cases, it might even beat them. From the interior use of materials, the technology, to how soft this vehicle just floats over the road. I mean, it's hard to tell how fast you're going because it's so soft and it's so quiet. I mean, you can hear the fan blowing out the air at the level 1 setting because that's how quiet it is inside this vehicle. I mean, Cadillac, you did an incredible job with this vehicle, and you would be wrong to not consider this as one of your next 3-row SUVs. Well, there you have it, folks. That was over 25 cool, fun, and interesting features of the 2023 Cadillac Escalade ESV V-Series. So what are my overall thoughts on this vehicle? Well, I'm in love with it. I am so happy that Cadillac decided to make it. I mean, we live in an incredible time where there's supercharged V8s inside of 3-row SUVs. Now, one thing that's very hard to swallow on this vehicle is the price. Pricing for the Escalade V starts around $150,000, which is absolutely mind-boggling for a Cadillac Escalade. But when you start thinking about the competition, there really isn't a direct competitor to this thing. I mean, of course, there's the Mercedes GLS with the AMG, BMW X7, which are all coming up to a very similar price point to this, but those vehicles are a little bit smaller. There's not as much space behind that 3rd row. They're also unibody construction, whereas this is body on frame, and this thing kind of has a different presence to it. I mean, this thing feels menacing. None of the others offer a supercharged V8 under the hood, so there is a competitive advantage to this one. Now the question is that enough to convince buyers to buy this over some of the German competition? Well, that's for you to decide. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. If this is your first time stopping by, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for all of the weekly videos. Everything from stuff like this to regular sports cars and electric vehicles. Also check me out on all the social media at Schwazy_. And until next time, everybody, I hope you stay Schwazy, stay healthy, have a wonderful day. I'm gonna go drive this thing a little bit more.